Hey, Senda.
Hey, Phil.
Pick a hand, left or right?
Right.
Chit.
Okay, cool. I'll chit.
I've got chat.
Okay, cool.
Cue music. And welcome to another episode of Panda's Talking Games. I'm the guy who worked a 60-hour work week last week.
Right, and I'm
Phil. I'm that guy.
Wow, you didn't even say you were a host. You didn't say your name.
Negative. I am a popsicle.
All right, folks, it's gonna be one of those nights, and I'm not editing this one. I am your other host, Senda, who did not work a 60-hour week last week. Ugh. And just as a quick reminder, this is a chit chat, so this is an ongoing thing that we're doing while both pandemic and then on top of that, Phil's work life have, been wild. And so writing scripts and editing and all of that sort of thing is not really a thing we're doing right now. As you have already experienced, our outtakes are now embedded in the show itself as Easter eggs for you to find as you listen. It's exciting. It's like a hunt. What will you find tonight?
Yes. If you are interested in what the show normally sounds like when the United States is not gripped in a pandemic, check out any of our shows that have numbers associated with them, like episode 150.
Wait, which one is episode 150?
I don't know. I know we did an episode 150.
Yeah, we also did an episode like 200.
Yeah. So just pick one of those if you want to hear what we're like.
Anything that doesn't say chit chat.
Yeah, you can listen to the chit chats. It's totally fine. It's this format as opposed to something a little more structured, a little more scripted, and a little more edited.
A lot more edited.
Which we're just not that right now. This is our soft pants episodes.
Yes.
Our hard pants episodes are numbered. These are our soft pants episodes. And we are very much soft pants.
I mean, it's not like these aren't we should start doing the thing, but this is chit chat like 7?
Yeah, by now
8?
people should actually know what we're doing.
Yeah, well, it's just in case somebody picks it up,
Fair enough. In our normal chit chat. Well, first of all, before I get into our normal format, I heard there was an episode last week.
There was an episode last week.
I was unable to make the episode because I was working my 60-hour work week on a very large project that is going less than stellar, but is still moving along. I heard you and Pandy did it.
Yeah. Pandy just seemed like the correct thing to do was to ask a different panda to stand in.
Right.
Really? And so I did that. Panda had some issues in that he is stuffed, does not actually have a mouth that opens, and also no vocal cords. So it was a challenge for him. I'm not sure it really worked out well. We might be able to make some better accommodations
been better on video because he's adorable on video.
Yes. See, like accommodations, like I was talking about. I'm not sure that I approached it.
I think that's where I outshine, right? So on audio, I think I've got a distinct advantage over the panda. But I think on video, I think the panda like edges me out.
Really?
I think the panda's probably cuter than I am.
I mean, it's tiny and soft and stuffed. Doesn't really have arms. Has a little bit of a T-Rex problem.
I mean,
and it has a cutie mark on its butt.
In fairness, one of my arms sucks. The other one's pretty good.
It's still not a T-Rex arm.
No, it's definitely not a T-Rex arm. It's like a 60% arm. Anyway,
it's a cyborg 60% arm.
Oh, it is definitely a cyborg arm.
Yes,
in all the bad ways.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
Cool.
Moving along in our typical format for this show, we're going to talk about something in gaming that is giving us life, and then we're going to use the general something else in life that is giving us life.
Yes.
Like we don't have a themed one. We're just going to go with the catch-all.
Going to go with stuff. That's okay. I mean, I have things that are giving me life, so it's good.
Alrighty. Then, hey you. What thing in gaming is giving you life?
So I talked about this a little bit yesterday when I recorded the episode that went out today, which is last week for the rest of you all listening.
Whoa, nonlinear podcasting.
Oh boy. Time traveling. But I thought it would be interesting to revisit this a little bit with a little bit more depth, a little bit more realization, and an actual conversation partner. Not to say anything disparaging about Pandy. Like, he's great. He's also, as we have said, stuffed. So the thing that is giving me life in gaming right now is this letter writing game that my group and I are doing.
Sure.
Side note, we did... Oh, I just thought of another thing, but I'm not going to change my thought now. I am going to say we did do the session 0 for Cartel last Thursday, and I cannot wait because those relationships are so delicious. But as soon as I get to actually play some of them, that's going to be giving me some serious life. So expect to hear about it in the future. For right now, I would love to tell you about the awesomeness of writing letters because it has given me the opportunity in a way that I haven't really had since I kind of fell out of being a straight D&D player / Pathfinder player, to have and create physical artifacts relating to the game that I am playing, right? But both as an artistic thing, because I like to make things with my hands. Oh, wow, that was a sneezack. I apologize.
Oh.
And I'm not cutting it either. I'm not even editing this episode.
It's probably my fault. I think I touched something on
terrible.
my phone that alerted you.
Are you on Twitter and podcasting?
I am capable of many things at the same time.
Shame. What was I even saying?
You were talking about the letter writing campaign.
Yeah, but more specifically.
Well, it's been giving you something that you haven't been able to do since your D&D days.
Yeah, because so in my D&D games, I would, I had a lot of fun making props. I had a lot of fun making character sheets, customized character sheets. So I would do character art and then I would also put it into a sheet. And because I am specifically this varietal of nerd, I would put it into Apple spreadsheet application Numbers, which allows you to move spreadsheet bits all over the place so you can design something pretty and still have it calculate, which is delightful. So it was like something between a spreadsheet calculating sheet and one of those really cool ones that people just draw out. So I would just plug in new numbers when I leveled up and it would do all the calculations for me and then I would print it out again. So I did a lot of that kind of thing, and you collect dice, right? Because if you play a character for a long time, frequently it's ooh, I want to have dice for this character or something. I'm not sure that I truly fell into that hole, but I know that a lot of people do. And then there's props and maps and puzzles and bits and pieces, and how cool is it when you're sitting at the table and your game master pulls out a prop for the thing, right? It's really cool and really tactile. Well, I've been playing a ton of games online because for She's a Super Geek, we record everything online. And B, and this was even before the pandemic, but now it's even more true, right? Now even my in-person game is online, whatever. But then B, my in-person group, we are so improv-based 95% of the time that props are not really a thing that come up for us. The last prop I can think of coming up for us at the table was I ended up playing Bad Horse, the Evil League of Evil Bad Horse, and I was using my knuckles on the table to make horse sounds, and they hurt. So Wen ran downstairs and got me his Monty Python coconuts.
Yes, that's hilarious.
But it wasn't a planned thing or something, right? It was brilliant, but it was a side note, right? So the thing about this letter writing game that I am eventually getting to through all of this storytelling is that it's creating these physical objects, and they're really cool in two ways. The first one is that I'm basically self-determining a character through choices that I'm making about stationery and wax seals, of which I now have 2 sitting right here next to me.
Neat.
This one has a cat on it because I am a cat. And so I'm writing letters. I have specific handwriting that I'm using for the letters because it's my familiar's handwriting, and she's in middle school, so all her eyes have hearts on them. There's there's all these little details about the creation of the artifact and why it looks like that, right? I designed my own stationery and I got it printed out. I have a whole little bag of like wax tablets for doing the seals, and my wax seals match the stationery, and like I have handwriting and like a paw print stamp that I put at the end as my signature and everything. It's great. And it's very exciting. But then it's also funny and weird because then I take that artifact and I send it to someone else. I don't actually have it anymore.
Right. You receive one, though.
And then I get something that somebody else did back, which is super cool in its own way. And let's admit it, getting mail that is not a bill is exciting. We're adults, and getting not bill mail is just cool. Surprise presents. Surprise mail presents with story in them. So yeah, so I'm getting life from that game a lot right now, and I do think that a lot of it is just the coolness of being able to mess with the physicality of it, right? Like to be able to dive in and design all that stuff and work with it and write and all of those things. It's just neat.
So I fondly remember, I lack any real artistic talent, so I like could never do like character art or anything, but I used to make my own character sheets for things quite a bit. That was very much a young Phil thing. And years and years ago, I wrote an article on Gnome Stew about D&D 4.0 and about how I had become addicted to all the bits in the game, right? Like
There's a lot of
cards
bits.
for all the moves. And
Yep.
we had, folks on a map and...
Ooh, miniature painting. I definitely painted. I didn't go down the hole into miniature painting, but what I did was I ended up buying miniatures that were specifically that character and painting that character.
See, I used to
had
get people.
specific minis.
There were a couple guys in my group who did miniatures, like they played Warhammer and stuff. So I would get, I would go find a mini, and then they would paint it up. So like in my 4th edition game, I have this like really badass dragonkin with a glaive. As my and fully painted mini, which I still keep. Like I loved that character. Anyway, my point being is that yes, I think that one of the things that we sometimes it's easy for us to forget are the tactile elements of a role-playing game, right? Like there's a thing about the dice. There's a thing about the rule book, the maps, the especially if games have artifacts that you can create, like One Quiet Year, Companion's Tale, right? Both of those. One of my favorite storytelling games is
Is it
The Fall of Magic.
Okay, yes.
The Fall of Magic has the parts to this game are they're amazing, right? Like the tactile quality of that game is absolutely unbelievable. So yeah, I totally get how playing something, especially right now when like all of my role playing is currently relegated to online.
Right, everything is digital, right?
Now I will say this. For a lot of the games that I'm playing, not all of them, I am rolling dice at home, and I have let any of my players who want to roll dice at home roll dice instead of using like rolling through the Roll20 app. Like if you want to roll through the Roll20 app, I have no problem. Like cool, you do you. But if you want to roll dice, like I'm totally down with it, and I roll a lot of my dice. I roll a lot of my dice, physical dice, because I like my dice and I miss them. Like,
yeah, I mean, that's one of the interesting things is like when I fell out of D&D in particular, and a lot of the games that I started playing suddenly were much more limited in terms of how many different polyhedral shapes we were talking about. Many D6s.
2d6.
So many D6s. Maybe 4. You could get up to 4 if you're playing like Lasers and Feelings, or like, if you're playing Fate, it's still really kind of a D6.
Pretty
like
much
it's
still a
D6. Right? And so like, I carry a lot more D6s with me on any given day now than I carry D20s. Which is totally fine, but there is a certain point of like, I don't buy more dice now unless I'm buying them for a very specific purpose, right? Like the last sets of dice I bought were like a set of sparkly pink D6s that all match each other that can be the dice for love and justice. Right?
I just bought a big ass. I didn't buy it. I kickstarted the 51 millimeter gelatinous cube die.
Holy bajolies, that's really big.
It'd be a big one.
I mean, I have, and then I have that. Those are the other last specific dice that I bought. Is 2 big ones for my Swords Without Master kit. Right?
Sure.
The hefty ones, the ones that are the size of like.
Oh, I love those.
4 D6s across on a surface. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that it goes without saying that the tactile qualities of role-playing games are amazing, and I actually I'm missing it. Like I'm going to talk about in a moment. I'm going to talk about Forbidden Lands, and I played that game face to face, and it has cards, and I have the dice, the actual dice for the game, and I have the map with the stickers, like that you put the sticker of like the campaign location on the map, right? That's very cool.
Yes.
And we're not doing any of that right now, right? Our map is digital, and the characters are all rolling because they have character sheets. They have built-in dice rollers. They're all rolling through their character sheets. I'm still rolling in person. I like rolling. So yeah, I get it. I totally get it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just interesting. But anyway, so if anybody is thinking to themselves, well, maybe it would be cool to do a letter writing game or something, like, highly encourage. I think it's very neat.
Yeah, and go to jetpens.com.
Or just, design your own and then...
Yeah, I'm just saying, though, like, if you are like, oh, I want to do a letter writing like a letter writing game, and I would like to have, like, some decent stationery or a nice pen or some cool ink or something like that, I recommend jetpens.com.
Yeah, it also depends on what your characters... They didn't have anything quite...
It's a good place to start.
Yeah, I needed stuff with more, like, mysterium.
It's fine. I'm a big fan of Japanese stationery.
Oh, it's great.
And you can get yourself a very nice fountain pen and some really sexy inks.
Yes, that too.
Yes.
Very good.
Anyway,
tell me about Forbidden Lands, because you were going to talk about Forbidden Lands.
I am going to talk about Forbidden Lands. This last session was our 25th session of playing the game.
Holy cow.
It marks 1 calendar year.
Holy cow.
Yeah, we've been playing for a year straight. And
that's a lot.
We've been playing mostly bi-weekly with a dropped game here, a dropped game there kind of thing. So if you're like 25 sessions doesn't really seem to add up to a year, but holiday, missed, games, pandemic.
Yeah. Pandemic.
Pandemic, we lost like a week and then we got back on track. So yeah, we played session 25 and I'm still loving it. The game is delightful in its travel and randomness as you travel through the world. And the players are on a little excursion to a dwarven town a couple days north of their stronghold, and are about to get embroiled in some dwarven stuff. But what's given me life is having a campaign that has gone a calendar year and nobody's done with it. Like, everybody's totally cool. They want to keep playing. They look forward to it every session. I look forward to it. We're having a lot of fun with it, and I'm not in a rush. There's something about the pacing of this game where it's like, well, like, they got this other quest to do. Like, they were doing this one side quest, and then they're gonna do another one that's like part of the main, like the main campaign arc. But they decided like not to do it until springtime. They're like, well, winter's coming. We really shouldn't be traveling all too far from home in the winter. So we're gonna hunker down. We'll take that excursion in the spring. And I'm like, all right,
cool, no worries, man.
But yeah, so I think the thing with a year-long campaign, right? It really is it's a balancing act on a number of fronts, right? Like, one, the game has to be engaging enough a year later, right? Like, there still has to be more stuff to do. You can't have run through all the like you can't have run through all the mechanics of the game. So that's
yes, that's
right.
fair. Yeah.
So that's still happening. There's still a whole world. You have to mark what hexes they've been in because they don't have to roll again to travel through those.
Right.
So they've only investigated like a fraction of the world in this year. Like they've mostly stayed in this one triangle.
Yeah.
So now as we embark on the next year of the game, they're gonna go to further and further away from their homes, and so part of that is having enough campaign material, right? And noting when you're through one arc. We finished one arc a month or two ago, and have been gearing up for this next big arc with some kind of small some small storylines in between. And I think that that's definitely part of it. And the last part of it, which I never, so there's no way to explain it, right? It is when a game clicks with a group.
Yeah.
Right. So mechanics are great, and it's fun to have mechanical mastery and stuff ahead of you, and having plenty of plot and world to chew is great. But the part that you have very little control over as a GM is when a group just comes together as a group of players, right? Yourself included, and you're just digging what you're doing.
Yep.
Right.
And works.
And it works, and everybody likes it. And this is not the group that I thought would be super excited about playing a fantasy role-playing game, but they are.
It's working.
And it's
Don't
not a
change
game
anything.
It's not a game that I originally thought I would run, but I am. Which I guess goes to say that you should always be open to trying to run different games, even games that are slightly out of your comfort zone, because you literally will not know what game is going to gel with your group in that way, right? You'll know which games your group will like and not like, but you won't know which game's going to be one of those games, one of those iconic games. And I would not have picked Forbidden Lands a year or two ago. I would not have picked it as a game that I would have been super interested in. And yet, a year later, 25 sessions, and still digging it. So that's definitely given me life.
It's super cool.
Yeah, very cool.
It is really funny. I also am not. I also wouldn't assume that a hex crawl fantasy game would be the one, right? For you.
I have no words, right? You would think it wouldn't, and yet at the same time, and maybe this is another thing I've really come to learn and appreciate, is that a good hex crawl game is actually a lot of improv.
Yeah, no, it's not so much the improv so much as I know that fantasy is not your home genre.
Yeah, it isn't. And Forbidden Lands has its own take on fantasy that is, I kind of dig.
Yeah.
It's a little magic isn't so powerful. There's magic. It's not spectacular. It's okay.
I like your expressions that are going with this. No one else can see them, though. They're very meh, it's there.
Okay.
It's okay.
Well, I mean, here's the thing, right? It doesn't have the D&D power curve, so it doesn't have that noticeable shift. A year into the game,
still feels like the game.
Still feels like the same game.
Yeah.
The characters are more powerful for sure.
Well, they're not. They're
not super powerful. They had an encounter with a boar.
Yeah.
And I've seen that encounter go a couple. I've seen that encounter where the boar has actually tore up the party a little, but in this case, they finished it in the first 2 beats of the initiative, right? And I was like,
wow.
Okay. So, yeah, I don't know. It's, again, not a thing I would expect. My takeaway for this before we move on to the next segment is be open. Be
Yeah.
open to different games. You literally won't know which one is going to have that magic until you start running them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Hey,
Good.
tell me another thing that's given you life.
Well, so at the beginning of the pandemic, I was rereading a whole bunch of things on my shelf. Like, I suddenly just decided it was time to reread all of my Robin McKinley books. And so I
Cool.
did. And I reread the vast majority of them. And as I was reading through them, I was like, she's written a bunch more books that I don't own yet. How do I not own them? Why did I stop purchasing them? I should have been buying them the moment that they came out. What was I thinking? And then I was like, oh yeah, Weird Life Place. But so I went and got a bunch more of them online, at which point life took a slightly different direction, and the thing that was giving me life turned into a different story writing thing for a little bit there.
Oh, yeah,
and,
it did.
I mean, that's still giving me life, but like it's starting to maybe move slightly slower now. Actually, have some downtime. So I finally picked up those books that I ordered back in March when I bought my last tank of gas, by the way. How fun is that? It's going to be July, the day after tomorrow. I haven't bought gas since March.
Hybrid.
I mean, hybrids haven't gone anywhere. Anyway, so I got those books, and they've been sitting on my dresser in that way where I'm like, I have one source of sort of new story ideas and new media, and it's working really well for me because we're able to talk about it as we're doing it, and so it's not scary in that, like, I can't anticipate what's going to happen totally. Like, I understand the framework, and then within that, I don't know exactly what's going to happen, but I know kind of what's going to happen, which made that feel really safe as a medium for a while there when I didn't have the emotional energy to consume new things. As the ability to think about consuming new story and things that I can't necessarily anticipate is coming back to me, that's also why I was rereading things, not reading new stuff for a bit there. I was like, I should read those books that I ordered at the beginning of the pandemic. Anyway, so I finished, late last night I finished Shadows, which is a Robin McKinley book. And I think it might be my favorite of hers, other than Sunshine, which is my
the
favorite.
Vampire Baker one. Yeah.
Yes. And Shadows was really amazing, and a completely different world, but had some similar feels. It was really interesting, sort of modern fantasy, right? Like modern normal world, except a little bit more dystopian, a little bit more 1984. And then with this overlay of like the reason that this particular area was a little bit 1984, and it was particularly poignant because of the timing in which I read it, which I will maybe get into in a second here. But the thing about it is that they live in this country where there is no magic. There's not supposed to be any magic. They rely on technology only technology. Magic has to stay in the other continents, and they prevent it from coming over, and they check people who come into the country, and they're like, no, you can't come in if you bring any magic with you. You can't bring magic things. You can't be magic. If you're born there and you have the magic gene, they splice it out of you. They remove that part of it, and they have to do it when you're like little so that it doesn't permanently damage you. So if you manage to avoid that and then they catch it when you're an adult, like that's kind of bad because they can do terrible things to you in attempting to remove it, and they will still try to remove it. That's where it gets a little bit 1984, but like, so it also has some interesting echoes because like it's a world that in many ways feels very normal and feels very like the world in which we currently live. But on the other side, it's like clearly, the people kind of just accepting this magic fascism, frankly, right? And not thinking about it because that's the way that, like, this girl is 17 and that's just the only world that she's ever known. And then finding out, like, that she's magic, it's kind of a thing. It was a very good girl coming of age story, and then on top of that had a lot of notes about honestly about governmental misuse of power, kind of thing. And it ended in a place where it's very much, then about like, okay, now there are multiple generations of people who have to go forth and change the world and make it better. And I was like, yeah, so that's what I just finished reading, and I started the next one that I bought today. So I'll report on that one later. I really like Robin McKinley. She's great. Good books. Anyway, what's giving you life that is not gaming?
So not gaming. I'm gonna go back to a tried and true favorite. Well, I have been reading physical books and I've been enjoying them. I think I talked about it last time.
I can't remember.
I did. I talked about Chronicles of Amber, and I'm still reading that because that series is enormous.
Yeah.
But I finished. I got to the end of Deep Space Nine. Now I started mid-third season, so I jumped in mid-third season when I randomly picked up an episode to watch, and then I watched it all the way through to the finale, which was amazing. And I had only seen the finale once before, so going back and watching the finale was really good, and it's very finale feeling,
finale-esque.
Yeah, it's bittersweet in a few places, like a good finale should be, and it's hopeful in a few places. So, it was all really good. But then I was like, okay, I started mid season 3. I should just go back and watch the first 2.5 seasons and actually watch every DS9 episode. Also, I need to prepare the watch list for a future DS9 watch club. So I was like, I should just go back and watch them all.
I appreciate you. I am becoming a Trekkie.
You are, which I appreciate. So I did. I went back to the pilot. I watched the pilot again and forgot how much overlap TNG Next Generation kickstarts DS9, and forgot there's some serious overlap in kind of pushing it out of the dock, so to speak. But then I've been watching the first episodes, and they're not spectacular compared to the end of the series. And there's a couple of reasons for that. There's a change in showrunner that really beefs up the show later. And it suffers, it's the first season, so it's always, there isn't a lot. The writers are feeling their way through the characters and stuff. But I'm thoroughly enjoying it. And its season 1 is probably season 2 of Next Generation.
Yeah. I mean, that seems good.
Yeah, it is, right?
No Skin of Evil episode.
Yeah. No Skin of Evil episode. There are a few things that when we watch it as the Watch Club, we'll have to talk about. Season 1, Julian Bashir is a little too thirsty.
Yeah.
In an uncomfortable kind of way. There are a few episodes where I'm a little cringy, they do much better later with him, but it's fun watching a lot of the characters get introduced, and just having just seen the end of it, going back and watching the beginning of it and being this is where this brick was first laid, right? Or, oh, that's a piece of foreshadowing that I doubt the writers were intended,
really,
right?
Knew that they were doing at the time.
Right. The thing that I also learned from Deep Space Nine, and again, because you haven't seen it, I'm not going to.
No spoilers. Jeez,
I'm not going to spoil it. But one of the characters is the commander's son, and there are a lot of stories with Jake and his buddy in it as kids messing around on Deep Space Nine, and I was like, I did not remember that. I did not remember that the kids plot was a thing in a lot of episodes. So anyway, I'm thoroughly enjoying it. I have vowed that when I reach when I get all the way full circle and get to the middle of season 3, I am off to Voyager. It's the series that I know the least, and I'm looking forward to actually I'm looking forward to, with a kind of a refreshed energy, to watch Voyager with fresh eyes, because I was very grumpy and disgruntled when it first came out, because I very much wanted something to continue in the, like, right after DS9, and they didn't. They did something different, and I was pissy about it. And I don't think I gave that show the fairest shake. So I'm going to come back to it fresh-eyed, renewed with a lot of Trek energy.
Right.
Because
I think you have a lot of fresh Trek energy right now.
I do. I got this cool new shirt for Father's Day with, like, with the
it's a good
the
shirt.
Federation symbol, and I've got another one coming with the athletic shirt with the Defiant. It just says USS Defiant on it. A ship you do not know yet.
Yep, I was gonna say, sure.
A ship you will love. It's probably my favorite ship.
Okay.
I'm a big fan of the USS Defiant. Anyway, plus I love its name. Anyway, that's been the thing that's been giving me life lately, and I'm okay with that. Right, we're still in pandemic. It's still important to self-care, and I've really noticed a huge uptick in people, like in my Twitter and Facebook feeds, who are watching Star Trek again.
So have I. It's like everybody finished Avatar: The Last Airbender, and they were all like, "Let's watch Star Trek." And I'm like, "Wow, I'm watching Next Generation with people I didn't even realize were watching Star Trek." Like,
it's interesting in that I forgot how big of a fandom it was for me when I was younger, and I kind of put it away for a long time.
Yeah.
But like now coming back to it, I'm like I'm really excited. I'm going to have 2 Star Trek t-shirts, right? like I'm loving the fact that I'm just going to like start embracing that nerddom, and I'm just going to, I'm going to run the role-playing game soon enough. Like I have no date on that, but that's definitely going to happen. Like I will definitely start playing in a Star Trek universe and start telling Star Trek stories, which excites me greatly. Anyway.
Yeah. We should wrap up this show so that we can put some outtakey stuff at the end.
Yeah, let's do that. So, in order to wrap up the show, we have to talk about another show on the Misdirected Mark Network. And I think it's only fair for you to talk about your show.
Okay, cool. So on She's a Super Geek, Andy and I release an episode every other week in which we play many different role-playing games as one-shots, and there's, I don't remember my own pitch. Hang on. And we highlight women as GMs.
Yes, I was trying to give you the softball pitch, right? Like, just,
I know. I just started it in the wrong place.
Yeah.
See, I know it. It's actually join Andy and I every other week for something.
Yes. Okay.
Anyway, you should listen to it. It's Emmy nominated from last year. It's a great show. You'll love it.
Say, Senda, where do people find us on the internet?
You can find us at Pandas Talk Games on Twitter, or you can find us in the Misdirected Mark forums, forums.misdirectedmark.com, or you can drop us an email, panda@misdirectedmark.com. And Phil, once they have that information or find us in one of those places, what can they do?
Well, listen, at some point we're gonna stop doing these chit chat episodes. We're gonna start doing regular episodes again, and in order to do that, we're gonna need some topics. Mm-hmm. So we're gonna need some topics on things that you want to hear about, questions you have about GMing or game mastering or playing, whatever. Send us those topics. I will take them. I will. Like a good sushi, pack it in with some helpful advice, roll it tightly, and slice it up into little bites that will be delicious, and I will put on your plate for you.
That's okay. I'll just be the soy sauce and wasabi, I guess. I am salty and hot.
I guess actually you'd be the one who cut up. I think you're the one who cuts the roll up, actually. Like,
oh, okay.
I feel like if we're...
I'm burn your mouth.
Amen.
Okay, moving right along.
Anyway, the whole idea is send us topics, right? We really like to do the show about the things that you're interested in, and we will get back to that, right? This is our own form of self-care right now, doing these lighter shows at a time when life is not very light. So this is helping us, and we hope we're helping you in return. If you like what we do here elsewhere on the Misdirected Mark Network, please consider supporting our Patreon campaign. Go to patreon.com/MMP. Patrons get access to the awesome Slack Room for Life.
Yep.
You can come hang out with us on the Friday luncheons.
Yes.
You just have to, you just got to look in the Slack room. We put up a note. You could do our Trek watch club if you are into watching some Next Generation with us. You don't even have to be a patron.
Yeah, you can just do that. It's
you
on
can
the
just
forums.
do that one.
Yeah,
you just go to the forums and follow along.
Jump in with us. We're having watch parties every Tuesday.
Absolutely.
Do it.
You get the bonus outtakes from this show. You get the after show from the Misdirected Mark, pre-production show notes, all sorts of things like that. At some time later in the future, as we kind of wake up from this pandemic and get ready to publish some stuff again, we like to shower our patrons with cool stuff from the Encoded line, which we haven't done in a while because Encoded's been sleeping. It's taking a little rest.
Hibernation.
While, it's a lot to handle in the middle of a pandemic. Anyway, consider supporting our Patreon campaign. Listen, there's another thing you can do that helps us out immensely. It goes along with our "If you listen to us, you will love us" campaign, and that is.
You could leave us a
online.
rating or review on Apple Podcasts or the podcatcher of your choice. I'm not going to give him time to finish because he comes up with something really long every time. I'm going to wrap this thing up. If you want to leave us a 5-star review, we would absolutely appreciate that. And if you want to write us a review, that brings us so much joy and happiness that it is, artistic validation that it makes us very happy, like pandas getting drunk on bamboo and falling off of stumps.
Say, Senda, we've done so many Chit Chat episodes. What if next week we just took a random question from somebody who's listening to the show and just answered it live?
Talked about it? Cool.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Hey, send us your questions.
Cool. All right.
This show is a joint production of She's a Super Geek and Misdirected Mark Productions, the media arm of Encoded Designs.
Show me what you got, eh? Show me what you got. Show me what you got, eh? Show me what you got. Show me what you got, eh? Show me what you got. Show me what you got.
Wiki attempt number
Yay.
2.
Hey.
Attempt
I
number
don't
1 will never be seen.
Yeah, because it's already been deleted.
Correct.
Because it didn't click on my end.
Failed to click.
Yep. What we have here is a failure to clickulate. Wait, I'm not editing this. We just got to start the show.
Are you ready?
Yes. Bloop. Doot, doot.